someone's running cold right now, like genuinely chilled. And I mean that deep bone level kind of cold where it's not about temperature anymore. It's about how unsafe everything suddenly feels. They are questioning everything they thought they knew about you, about safety, about connection, about whether what they are experiencing with you is real or if they have somehow gotten trapped in a fantasy they created in their own head. And here is what's wild. You did this. You fundamentally shifted something in them without even trying, without even knowing you were doing it. In fact, you probably still don't realize what happened. And that's exactly what's making them spiral right now. Your one bizarre thing changed everything. Let me explain what's happening in their head because it's going to sound insane, but it's also completely real. They walked around thinking they had it figured out. They thought they understood how connection worked. They thought they'd learned all the tricks, all the moves, all the ways people try to manipulate their way into someone's heart. They have been burned before, multiple times probably. They've built these walls that are honestly kind of impressive when you think about it. Really solid architecture. The kind of walls they are supposed to keep, that are supposed to keep them safe, to keep them from every feeling, that particular brand of devastation that comes when someone you thought saw you actually saw what they wanted to see. Confusion. And then you showed up and changed absolutely everything about how that works. But here is the thing that's actually destroying them right now. You didn't do anything. You didn't do anything. Let me be specific about this. You didn't chase them. You didn't send 17 messages at 2 in the morning trying to figure out if you said something wrong. You didn't perform or try to impress them or launch some elaborate campaign to prove your worth. You just existed. You were there. You showed up as yourself without agenda, without strategy, without all the exhausting machinery that usually comes with trying to matter to someone. And somehow, that simple existence, just you being you, hit them harder than any grand gesture, any romantic speech, any perfectly timed moment could have ever done. This is the power of being an intentional truth teller. You didn't set out to expose anything. You just refused to play the games everyone else plays. And that refusal, that's what brought everything to light. This is where it gets bizarre. And I want you to sit with this because I think you need to understand the full picture of what you actually did. You became, and that's my favorite part, you became their mirror. Not in some cheesy cosmic way where you have the same favorite songs or you both cry at the same movies. I'm talking about something much deeper that happens beneath words, beneath conscious thought. underneath all the social masks that people wear like armor every single day. You know how people have a particular way of moving through the world. You know, the way they hold their shoulders when they're protecting something soft. The way their voice shifts when they are about to say something real. The micropause that happens before they answer a question, where you can actually see them thinking, actually see them deciding whether it's safe to be honest. The way their eyes change when something hits too close to home. They noticed all of that about you, every single thing. And not because they were analyzing you in some clinical way, no, but because they were actually paying attention in the way that only people who've learned to read the room, really read it, ever do. They saw how you hold yourself when you are not performing. They felt the energy that comes off you when you are just standing there, not trying to be anyone for anyone. And here's what actually happened in that moment. They saw themselves, not your style or your job or your opinions, but the actual blueprint underneath. Your wounds. Yeah, your wounds. The way you've learned to protect something tender by looking a little closed off on the outside. Your hesitation, the careful way you've built something around your real self to keep it safe. And that recognition, when someone sees their own cracks reflected back at them in another person, that breaks something open. Always. It's not even a choice at that point. It just happens. The bizarre part isn't that you are trying to be different. It's that your difference is real. It's not a persona you've crafted. It's not a mask you put on to filter out the toxic people. It's just who you are. And that authenticity acts like a natural filter. The people who can't handle your light, they self-select out. The people with hidden agendas, the ones operating on manipulation and strategy, they can't breathe in your presence because you are not playing the game they understand. Think about what they are used to experiencing in connection. Most people move through the world offering transactions. I'll show you this version of myself. You approve and validate and don't leave. I'll perform confidence. You believe I'm secure. I'll hide these vulnerable parts. You stay and pretend they don't exist. That's the contrast everyone signs without even reading it. But you are not operating under that contract. You came in and just existed without trying to earn anything, without performing, without trying to prove anything. And that broke their framework completely. When someone has walls, and I mean really, really thick ones, the kind built over years and of getting hurt, those walls have a job. They are supposed to keep people at exactly the right distance. Close enough that you are not alone, but far enough away that you cannot destroy them. The math is pretty straightforward. But then you showed up with your quiet energy and your genuine presence and your complete lack of agenda, and something weird happened. You didn't try to break their walls down. You didn't assault the fortress or demand entry or use manipulation or games or any of the usual tools people use. You just stood on the other side of your own authenticity and let them decide what to do with that. And the walls started cracking on their own. This is the paradox nobody talks about because it doesn't make sense on the surface. The harder someone tries to break through another person's defenses, the more protective that person becomes. It's like a physical law, actually, physical law. Push hard, meet resistance. But when you stop pushing, when you just exist with genuine presence and no agenda, something shifts. The question in their head changes. It goes from, oh, what does this person want from me? To, why do I feel safe with you when I don't feel safe with anyone? And that question is what's actually poking them right now. That's what's keeping them up at night. Let me paint you a picture of this because I think you need to really see what you are doing without even trying. Imagine a ship navigating through thick fog, pretending it knows the way while hiding a broken compass. It's been lost for so long it doesn't even remember what solid ground looks like. Then there is you. You are like a lighthouse, not hunting the ship down, not shouting at the fog, not trying to prove anything or convince anyone to come closer. You just stand there. You're just presence. You pulse with a light that is simply your nature. Your light doesn't perform. It doesn't strategize. It just exists. And for that ship, for the person who has been lost in the fog their entire life, that light is absolutely terrifying because it reveals exactly how lost they really are. It shows them the rocks they're about to crash into. It makes it impossible for them to keep pretending they were not lost. That's what you did. You didn't scare them with your words or your actions or some grand gesture. You spooked them because your light made the presence impossible to maintain. Your authenticity exposed their inauthenticity. Not because you were trying to, but because light and darkness can't occupy the same space. When you stand in your truth, you automatically illuminate everyone else's lies. You didn't set out to do this. You didn't strategize it or plan it or execute it. You just refused to play alone. You just existed as your real self. And that refusal to perform, that refusal to hide, that's your bizarre thing. That's what changed everything. But it goes even deeper than that. And this is where I want you to really pay attention, because this is the thing that's actually breaking their brain open. You are not just mirroring their wounds. You are mirroring something else that they forgot they had. Let me pause. underneath all that protection, underneath all those walls, and all that carefully constructed emotional distance, there is something alive in them, something that hasn't been allowed to exist for a really long time, something that got buried under years and years of playing small, fitting in, being what everyone else needed them to be. And when they look at you, they see that part of themselves reflected back, not the broken part, the real part, the part that hasn't given up, the part that still believes in something deeper than the surface level chaos of modern connection. That's why they can't stop thinking about you. Not because you are perfect, or because you somehow completed them, or any of that narrative. It's because you remind them of who they actually are. And that's absolutely terrifying. Because if you remind them of who they actually are, then they have to face the fact that they have been hiding from themselves. That's beautiful. That they have been settling for less, that they have been leaving behind walls that were supposed to protect them, but really just kept them isolated and lonely. What you see is what you see, is what you get. That's become a badge of honor. While everyone else is constantly shifting, performing different versions of themselves, depending on the audience, you just show up as you. That's radical. That's dangerous to people operating on manipulation. That's exactly what filters them out. Now there is another layer to this that matters, and I think this is the part that's really messing with them. You know things about them, deep things they have never told anyone, things they were not even planning to tell you, and you didn't figure out through conversations or investigation or deduction. You just somehow knew. Maybe you said something once, something that seemed obvious to you, and it hit them like a truck because it was something they had been carrying alone their entire lives, and nobody had ever named it before. Maybe you just looked at them and in a certain way at a certain moment, and they felt like you saw straight through all the performance to the real stuff underneath. Maybe you didn't say anything at all. Maybe you just created a container of such genuine presence that they felt safe enough to be honest. And then when they started opening up, everything connected in a way that made them realize you understood things about them they hadn't even consciously understood about themselves yet. This isn't magic. This isn't psychic ability or supernatural intuition, even though I understand why it feels that way. You are just paying attention in a way that most people, almost nobody does anymore. You are present in a way that someone who's never experienced real presence feels almost supernatural. And here is why you can do that. You know what it feels like to be invisible. You know what it feels like to have no one notice the small things about you. So you notice the small things about them. The way their voice changes when they talk about something that actually matters. The micro expression that crosses their face before they put the mask back on. The topics they circle around but never land on because they are too afraid. The way they hold their body when they're about to say something vulnerable and then they stop themselves. You see all of it. And to someone who's spent their whole life feeling invisible, being noticed feels like a miracle. But here's the part they don't understand yet. And honestly, you might not either. You're not doing this to get something from them. You're not noticing these things as a strategy to win them over or make them fall in love with you or earn their approval. You're just like this. This is who you are. You're the kind of person who cares about the real stuff, who can't help but see beneath the surface because surface level interaction has always felt like a lie to you too. You pay attention because it matters to you. You are present because that's how you know how to be. There is a strange justice in this that nobody talks about. You don't have to seek revenge on toxic people. You don't have to expose their lies or fight their deception. By just standing in your truth, by just being authentically yourself, the universe forces them to face their own shadows. They can't hide from themselves when they are standing next to someone who isn't hiding at all. And when someone encounters that kind of genuine, unconditional presence for the first time in their life, it does something to them. It rewires how they think about connection. It makes them question everything they thought they understood about love, about attraction, and what intimacy is supposed to feel like. Because they thought intimacy meant performance and strategy and trying hard enough. They thought connection meant earning it somehow, proving your worth, navigating impossible games where the rules change without warning. And then you showed up. And none of that applied anymore. You just showed up as yourself. And that worked. This is the hard truth that's breaking their mind. You didn't do anything bizarre. You just stopped performing. And to someone who's only ever known performance, who's never encountered genuine realness without an agenda attached, your authenticity feels like an earthquake. Yeah, earthquake. Their brain is running every possible scan trying to find the catch. Because there is always a catch, right? Always a catch. When someone seems this genuine, when they seem to see you this clearly, when they don't seem to want anything from you in return, there has to be a hidden agenda. There has to be a moment when the mask drops and they reveal that they are like everyone else. But that moment isn't coming. And that's what's actually destroying them. Yeah. That moment isn't coming. They're used to love that feels like a transaction. I give you this, you give me that. But you're not doing that. You're not trying to earn their affection or prove anything or chase or pull or push. You are just there being yourself. And that completely broke their framework for how relationships work. They don't have a category for this. They are doing something they have never done before. They are questioning everything they thought they knew about connection, about safety, about what love is supposed to feel like. And all of that questioning started because you just existed authentically. This is the thing that nobody tells you about this kind of connection. They are not supposed to be easy. No, they are supposed to crack you open. They are supposed to show you the places you've been hiding from yourself. They are supposed to make you uncomfortable enough to finally stop settling for versions of love that feel safe but empty. That's what's happening to them right now. That's exactly why they're chilled to the bone. They thought they knew what connection felt like. They thought they understood attraction and intimacy and how people work. And then you showed up and broke all their certainty. Everything they thought they understood stopped working. So let me just be direct about what actually happened here. You mirrored them. That wasn't about similarity. That wasn't about be the same person. That was about recognition. Your soul recognized theirs, not because you are the same, but because you speak the same language, the language of people who've felt different their whole lives, people who have felt too much, saw too much, were too much for the world that wanted everyone to fit neatly into boxes. That recognition is what made the wall cracks. Second, you paid attention in a way that almost nobody does. And that attention to someone starving for it feels like a miracle. But here's what's really breaking them. You did all of this without even trying. You were not performing, you were not strategizing. You were just being yourself without agenda, without performance, without trying to be anything other than exactly what you are. And that's the most disarming thing in the world. So, where are you now? You have a choice, always. But I want to be clear about what that choice actually is. You could try to control this. You could try to figure out the right moves, the right things to say, the right way to be so you don't scare them off. You could go back to performing, to protecting, to playing small. That path leads to the same place it always has. Safety. You know that. But the kind of safety that feels like slowly dying. Or you could just stay real, stay present, stay exactly who you've been being, because who you've been being is already working. Not because it's getting you to the specific outcome you want, but because it's true. And truth is the only thing that reaches someone behind walls. Truth is the only thing that breaks through defenses that have been built over a lifetime. Your authenticity is like a key they didn't know existed for a lock they didn't know how to open. Your light keeps shining whether they acknowledge it or not. That's what makes it so powerful. Here is what I need you to understand. This isn't about them anymore. It never was. The reason this connection hits so hard isn't because they are special. It's because you are finally letting yourself to be seen. And that terrified you so much that you focused on their reaction instead of your own. But their reaction is actually proof that you are doing it right. They are being chilled to the bone is evidence that you are real, that what you are offering isn't performance or strategy, it's authentic presence. And that breaks something open in people. You didn't accidentally cast a spell. You didn't trigger some cosmic mechanism. You just stopped pretending. And the world, this person, this connection, is responding to your realness the way realness always does. It's breaking things open. Everything that was built on performance and strategy and trying too hard, it's all cracking. That's not a bad thing. I think you will agree with me. That's not a bad thing. That's the beginning of something real. You don't need to do anything else. You don't need to strategize your next move or figure out how to keep them interested. Your light is doing the work. Your truth is doing the work. Your refusal to play games is filtering out everyone who can't handle authenticity and drawing in the people who are starving for it. The only person you couldn't see that who you actually are is enough was you. But now you are starting to understand it. You are starting to trust yourself, to believe in yourself, to recognize that your authenticity isn't a liability. It's the most powerful, really powerful thing you have. And the fact that it's affecting someone else so deeply, that's not bizarre. That's proof that you have been real all along. You just needed someone to see you the way you see them to actually believe in yourself. That's who you really are. Love you. Be yourself.